It's your friendly math tutor, Miss C, here to solve equations that have rational exponents. We are going to go through 4 different problems that range from basic to challenging, and we're going to follow the steps on the right. Step 1 is we are going to simplify one or both sides of the equations, treating them like expressions. And when we do that, we use the order of operations moving forwards from P to S. Sometimes we call this PEMDAS. And then step 2 is going to be solving the equations, which means we're moving things across the equal sign singular, which means we use the order of operations backwards. Sometimes we call that SADMEP. All right, we are going to get started with our first problem that I'm calling basic for solving equations with rational exponents. So we have x to the 5th times x cubed equals 256. So we need to get the x's together, and that is going to require us to use the power of a product property. Sometimes it's called the multiplicative property of exponents. Essentially, what we do in this case, we have the same bases and they are being multiplied. The property says we add our exponents. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that. 5 plus 3 is 8. So we have x to the 8th equals 256. At this point, we have a choice to make. Our goal is to get x by itself or x to the power of 1. That's the same thing as getting x by itself. We have 2 options. We can either raise both sides of this equation to the power of 1/8, because that makes x to the power of 1, or the exact same option is we could take the 8th root of x. I'm going to show you both ways. So here's option 1. I'm going to draw it over here. I am going to rewrite this. So I could raise this side to the power of 1/8, and I could raise this side to the power of 1/8. And when I do that, I get x to the power of 1, which is x. 256 to the power of 1/8 is 2. So x equals 2. Or I could take the 8th root of both sides, and that looks like this. Now, keep in mind, these are equivalent ways of solving. When I do that, the 8th root of x to the 8th is x, or x to the 1, and the 8th root of 256 is 2. So in any situation where you are trying to get rid of known exponents, all you have to do, you get to choose your method. Either one of these will always work. So our solution is 2. You could plug 2 back in for x, and good news, you will get the exact same answer, which is 256. All right, let's do our next problem. Ooh, it looks like I need to clear the board here. Let's do that. I'm calling this our intermediate problem because there's an additional step. So we've got a coefficient on one of our x terms. We're going to apply the same power of a product property to deal with our exponents. We're going to add these guys together because our bases are the same. And that 5 is just going to hang out because it's being multiplied. So I have 5x to the power of 6 equals 3,645. So here's where things change a little bit. I'm looking at SADMEP, right? I don't have, so I'm going to start solving the equation. So I don't have any addition or subtraction. That is this part. I do have division or multiplication. So that is the 5. So I'm going to deal with that by dividing the 5 off of both sides. When I do that, I get x to the 6th equals 729. All right, at this point, it is your choice. You can take the 6th root of both sides, or you can raise both sides to the 1/6. I'm going to raise both sides to the 1/6 because, well, I love fractions and I love fractions. All right, so when I do that, x to the 6th to the power of 1/6 is x to the 1, or just x, and 729 to the power of 1/6 is 3. If you took the 6th root, you would get the exact same thing. If I were teaching you, I would say, and I had more room on my screen, I'd say plug that 3 back in just to make sure you entered everything correctly into your calculator. I know this answer is correct because I wrote this problem, but checking your answer is always the best idea. Let's do one more intermediate problem that has one additional step. You're going to notice that we have 2 coefficients. We've got a 6 and a 10, and then we've got our x cubed times x to the 4th. So Here is the only difference here. We are going to start by multiplying our coefficients 6 times 10. So if you are following along with the PEMDAS, because we are in the simplifying stage, we are essentially doing the exponent and the multiplication division concurrently. I'm just saving some space. So we're doing 60. And now we're multiplying our exponents, our bases together. X cubed times x to the fourth is x to the seventh. And that equals 8.01. Now we're going to do the same thing we did last time. There's no addition or subtraction, so we're jumping straight to multiplication and division. I'm going to divide off 60 from both sides. When I do that, I get x to the power of 7 equals 0.1335. All right, now we're back to getting rid of the power of 7, which means I'm going to, in this example, take the 7th root of both sides. That's the same thing as raising to the power of 1/7. So when I do that, the 7th root of x to the 7th is x. The 7th root of 0.1335 is approximately 0.75. I've rounded to the 100th place. All right, we made it through the beginning, the basic and intermediate problems. Let's try one more that's a little more challenging. You're going to see we have a lot of different things to do here. So let's go ahead and simplify the equation using PEMDAS first. We're going to simplify the left side, get it as clean as possible, and then we will go ahead and move to SADMAP. So what I can simplify are the x to the fourth times x. Remember, there's a hidden 1 on this x. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this 1/8. Remember, this is the power of a product property, so I add my exponents and I get x to the 5th here. So 4 plus 1 is 5. I can't really simplify anything else on this side. So I am going to move over to SADMAP. I'm going to look for any addition or subtraction. I see that 1,024 is being added, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. When I do that, I get a 0 where the 1,024 was, so I'm left with 1/8 times x to the power of 5 equals 162. All right, now I need to look and see if I have any division or multiplication. I see that 1/8 is being multiplied. The opposite of multiplying 1/8 is dividing by 1/8, or if you're like me, I hate dividing fractions because I think there's lots of room for error in calculators. So I tend to multiply by the reciprocal. It's the same thing as dividing. So I'm going to multiply this side by 8/1 and this side by 8/1. This is the exact same thing as dividing by 1/8. This makes a 1. This leaves me with x to the 5th equals 1,296. All right. And now, choices, choices, choices. I can raise this to the power of, did you get it, 1/5 on both sides, or I can take the 5th root. I am going to raise to the power of 1/5. Remember, we're trying to make the exponent on x 1. So that's why we're raising to the reciprocal of 5. Essentially, when we do that, we get x to the 1 or x. When we take the 1,296 to the power of 1/5, also equivalent to taking the 5th root, I get 6. So x equals 6. Thank you for solving these equations using rational expressions with me when you had to apply the power of a product property. Make sure you subscribe for more videos. Till next time, remember, you've got this.